Hello, I'm Timothy, Regional Director for USSEC Southeast Asia. I hope everyone is having a good day and wish all good health and well-being. On behalf of the US Soybean Export Council, I am pleased to have this opportunity to give some perspective on how Southeast Asia agriculture is faring in these challenging times. To start, please let me share a couple of thoughts on an event that has changed the way we live, the way we work, the way we meet, and in the context of this presentation, the way we eat and consume. The coronavirus disease or COVID-19 has touched over 6 million lives across 188 countries and counting. Southeast Asian countries are taking a combination of measures and precautions to contain the pandemic, some with more success than others. Like its distant cousin SARS, which gripped this region in 2003, the humanitarian crisis was quickly followed by economic hardship, as countries closed its borders and restricted movement impacting trade, tourism, and major business sectors, including agriculture. In terms of growth rates for this year, the International Monetary Fund projects a negative 0.6% for the ASEAN 5 economies by the end of 2020, but with a rebound to a positive 7.8% growth in 2021. While it may be too early to assess the economic impact from COVID-19, it stands to reason that there will be an upsurge in economic activity and consumption when conditions start to normalize. As quickly as the internet age was progressing, it was still largely the domain of the younger generations that had the most exposure and as a result, fluency to the technology. COVID-19 made it a necessity for a generation of consumers and subsets in the population to have to learn the online culture in order to meet their need for consumption. Businesses are betting that these newfound habits are going to drive new revenue streams even when life returns to normal. Let's now move on to the main topic of interest, and that is to look at some of the latest developments in Southeast Asia agriculture. Southeast Asia continues to be a region that holds tremendous potential. Before COVID-19 struck, the region was growing at an average of between 4 to 6% annually. Having weathered the Asian economic crisis in 1997, followed by a series of industry and economic shocks before COVID-19, this region has the fundamentals we believe for a swift recovery moving forward. The agricultural landscape across the region is diverse, where some countries are better endowed with land and natural resources than others. In Indonesia, a country with over 260 million people, it is the largest economy in the region and biggest feed producer among the countries that will be discussed. Over 80% of Indonesia's feed production goes to poultry production. The country is working to get COVID-19 under control, but the impact to its agricultural economy is substantial. Animal feed production is projected to be reduced by as much as 30% as consumption drops as a consequence of the movement restrictions. It is one of the countries that was worst hit when tourism and the mice industry came to a standstill. A major aquaculture producer and consumer, this sector has responded to the crisis positively by adopting alternative ways to market and deliver their product to end consumers. Now let's look at the Philippines. Ranked among the top 10 producers of hogs globally, and before COVID-19, Philippines led as one of the top economies in the region with projected growth rates of between 6 to 7%. Like many of the countries in Southeast Asia, tourism and the business travel industry is a major contributor to GDP for the Philippines. Overall consumption for meat protein is projected to be down due to the reduced economic activity and decrease in disposable income. Another factor that is affecting feed production is the prevalence of African swine fever. Since the first African swine fever outbreak was confirmed in July of 2019, ASF in short, have spread to the main island of Luzon and to the Mindanao Islands. The rebuilding of the pig industry is slow, as most producers are maintaining a wait-and-see approach, with many hesitant to repopulate without a vaccine. With the high price of pork, some consumption has switched over to other meat proteins like poultry and aquaculture. Similar to Indonesia, producers also turn to catering to end consumers through online orders and delivery. Thailand has one of the most established agricultural economies in the region. It produces about 3 million tons of chicken meat a year, with about 60% going for domestic consumption and 40% for exports. Thanks to its strict biosecurity practices and experience, Thailand is one of the few countries that have remained ASF-free. The Thai poultry sector is expected to continue to grow as China sources more chicken meat from Thailand. It is aiming to boost chicken meat exports by 10% this year, following a 50% slump in domestic consumption as a result of the outbreak of COVID-19. A familiar consequence that many countries in this region face due to the heavy reliance on tourism and business travelers. Thailand is also a major producer of shrimp and plans to increase production in that sector as well. Next, on to Vietnam. Vietnam's feed production is projected to grow in 2020, largely from an increase in production for poultry and aquaculture products to offset the drop in swine feeds. The hog market in Vietnam has also been hit hard by the African swine fever, and that is going to continue to put a ceiling on the swine feed production. Vietnam is among the top 5 producers of pork, and the short supply has kept prices very high. Another recurring theme that is happening as a result of COVID-19 is the increasing demand by consumers for chilled meat ordered for delivery. With travel and safe distancing rules in place, consumers are unable to frequent the wet markets that they are accustomed to for their meat and produce. Vietnam, a major aquaculture producer, has seen its exports decline due to a drop in demand from its export markets. Projections for poultry, swine, and aquaculture feed production are down as the government's COVID-19 measures continue to take its toll on consumption. The challenges for Malaysia are very much the same as that mentioned for the other countries in the region. With the drop in demand and production, prices will continue to fluctuate as the industry make adjustments to meet the impacts caused by the COVID-19 contagion. Myanmar has a growing agricultural economy, but largely still in the development stage. Livestock feed production in Myanmar is the lowest among the countries discussed. Before COVID-19, the poultry sector was on a growth trend led by increasing demand and new feed mills coming online to meet production. However, like the rest of Burma's livestock sector, it has also been hard hit by COVID-19. So in summary, the feed and livestock situation for Southeast Asia remains precarious and uncertain. It now depends on how long will the movement restrictions remain in place, and thereafter, how long for the industry to normalize to pre-COVID-19 levels. Even as consumption is seriously affected by the stalling of the tourism and business travel industry, our projections are that meat protein demand will remain relatively stable. Almost all the countries mentioned have already passed economic stimulus plans aimed at creating employment and providing financial relief to affected businesses and individuals. As governments start to open up the country and jumpstart sections of the economy, precautionary measures will remain active to control subsequent waves of infection. This may cause a drag on the recovery rate for the food production and agricultural sectors, which tends to be labor intensive. On a positive note, online shopping and home deliveries will continue to expand to cater to a new set of consumers that are now familiar and savvy with using the internet to make their purchases and opt for the convenience of delivery. Businesses have expanded their operations to include online ordering and delivery services in anticipation of an even larger online economy after COVID-19, or perhaps when the next wave of infection may hit. Finally, consumer habits have been compelled to adapt because of the COVID-19 restrictions. Studies show that consumers are cooking at home a lot more, and there are a much wider awareness on nutrition, food safety, and sustainability. African swine fever continues to be a major concern, particularly in Vietnam and the Philippines. While countermeasures have been introduced to control the spread of the virus and to keep the market buoyant amidst the short supply, progress will remain slow until a vaccine finally becomes available. Meanwhile, as consumers contend with the short supply and the high price of pork, expectations are that the major meat protein sources will work itself in to replace some of the demand and lend underlying strength to the feed and livestock industry. On that note, I've come to the end of my presentation. I hope that you have found some of the information useful, and if you would like to know more or in more detail, please do contact us. On behalf of our team in Southeast Asia, thank you, and we look forward to getting together again, hopefully in person, with many of you in the near future. Stay safe.